Hey Deb, how's it?
Director, I heard you, but there was a little bit of an echo.
A little bit of an echo. Okay, I'll try to fix that.
I think it's fine. It's probably on our end. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. All right, good evening, everyone. We want to welcome everybody to our school board meeting. We'll start the meeting with a land acknowledgement by Dr. Stevens.
We honor the first peoples of these lands by acknowledging that the area in which we gather is within the traditional territory of the Stillaguamish tribe of Indians. The Stillaguamish people have inhabited these lands and waters since time immemorial, and their ancestors have remained in this territory to this day. The Stillaguamish people have continued to practice the traditional ways of their ancestors of fishing, hunting, and gathering. The Stillaguamish tribe has had these lands and cultural traditions passed on to them by their ancestors who believed that everything has a spirit and that they are caretakers of these lands and waters.
Thank you, Dr. Stevens. Next, we'll have our pledge of allegiance. Will everyone please rise and join me for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the God for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Next up, we'll have our roll call attendance. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Director Ray,
Here,
Director Kelly,
Here.
Director Kingman,
He's absent at this time.
President Levesque,
Here,
Director Knapp,
here.
Student Advisor Schroeder.
Here.
Student Advisor LeBon,
Here.
Superintendent Sweeping.
Here. Thank you. Next up, we'll have our approval of the agenda. Would anyone like to make any changes to the agenda, or do we have a motion to approve them as presented?
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. Madam Clerk.
Director Ray,
aye.
Director Kelly. Aye. President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
Aye. Thank you. The agenda is adopted. And next up, we'll have a very exciting presentation tonight. We have the President Elementary School fifth grade student, and we'd like to introduce the principal, Jamie Miller, and she will introduce who she's brought with her. Welcome. We're so excited that you're here.
Right. Oh, good. All right. Today I brought my fifth grade students with me. I have Toby Reese, Lucy Hartman, Taylor Hoyt, Haley Young, and Anya Miller, my very own Kamona. And these fifth graders have been working on region projects for the United States. And they were provided a UDL lesson, so they had choice in how they researched. And they had choice in the projects and how they shared out their learning. So that's what they're here to share with you tonight. Okay, in order. You don't have an order? Who's talking first? Okay, then you have an order. And then when you want them to, you want us to click or can you click?
Just let us know when you'd like to.
Okay, so when you want them to change slides, just tell them to click. Okay, thank you.
Hello, good evening. I'm Taylor Hoyt. I'm Lucy Hartman. I'm Anya Miller. I'm Haley Young. And I'm Toby Reed. We are fifth graders from President's Elementary. We're here to tell you about our Regions Project. As fifth graders, we get to learn about the regions of the United States and the indigenous people who live and continue to live on these lands. Our teachers, Miss Arubabola, Miss Robinson, and Miss Wilson, presented us with something called a UDL project. We just like to call it our Regions Project. The best part of our project was that it meant we got to make lots of choices. Our teachers first started off by introducing the project to us. They told us what was expected us to do and learn over the 2 weeks. They gave us rubric charts so that we could always make sure we were looking for the right information. The center of the chart was a list of all the things we had to learn about the different regions. The first choice we got to make was whether we wanted to work alone or with a partner. I chose to work alone. I chose this because, in my opinion, I can get more work done alone and not get distracted by my partner. I chose to work with Haley. I made this choice because I thought it would be faster. That way we could both research different things at the same time and share what we learned. We also had a good time together and worked well together. The next choice we got to make was how we would learn the information. We could choose between a set of articles. One of them is this one. Use the website Dexter's, or read from a collection of books and epic that our teacher prepared for us. We chose to use all of it because we wanted to get as much information as possible. I think this worked well because we were able to find all the information we needed. Some kids only used one source to find all of the information. Some of the sources were easier to use than others. I chose to use all of the resources also because I started with the packet, but I didn't feel like it had all the information I needed. Another choice we had was how we learned to take notes. Our teachers gave us a chart already organized for us to fill in the required information we were looking for. Make a note-taking sheet. We can also use notebook paper or note cards. I used a note-taking sheet so that I could use it while I made my presentation. Our last choice was how we wanted to present the information we learned. We could choose between completing a map packet or making a poster, Google slideshow, or book. Anya and I chose to make a poster. This is our poster. We decided to make a poster because we are both artistic and enjoy doing art more than technology or writing. My partner and I made a book. We decided to make a book because we thought it would be more fun to start from nothing. We wanted to draw at our map and not want to have one pre-made for us. The book allowed us to organize our ideas how we wanted. For me, one of the best parts of this project was making maps. I think maps are fun to draw, but I like to draw all the time. I learned a lot about how different regions have different climates and tried to eat different food. I didn't know that. I really liked how the responsibility was on us and how we got to go deeper into research. I also liked rereading it more to make sure my notes were complete. I finished pretty quickly, so I got to do some extra credit. I learned about an extra region and made the second project. I made a slideshow and then it goes through my book. I'm most proud of the amount I did. I enjoyed learning about the different regions and which tribes live in each region. I think this project was really fun. I like taking notes and didn't mind having to reread the information to make sure it was all there. This project was fun. I enjoyed getting to choose how I presented my learning. I made a slideshow. Let me show you a couple of slides from my Pacific Northwest region. My slideshow was really long because I wanted to show a lot of information. I learned a lot about what the indigenous people ate and what kind of homes they lived in. I think I learned more about the regions this way because I had to read over the information more. So I thought about it more and then I would have had it taught to me. This project was really fun. I liked getting to pick how we presented our information. I also liked that we got to do it with a partner and that no one had to explain it to us step by step. It was faster with a partner and more fun. It was so much better working with a partner to learn. At the end, we had to write down any concerns or celebrations we had on our original rubric trip. This was hard for most of us because we didn't really know what to write. Celebrations were easier to write about because we liked thinking about what we did well. The project was fun, so it was easy to think about the good things. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to share projects with you. Do you have any questions?
I have a question. Did you or have you read any, I'm gonna say like indigenous authors? Have you read any books or was that any part of your project, or is that made you curious about reading indigenous authors that would tell you stories about that time, life in America?
Yes.
Behind trees. He's behind trees.
Yes, we read it behind trees.
Okay.
And we had some books we had some books for us on Epic that we could read for the project.
Were those, I'm guessing that was nonfiction, so just stories?
It was mostly facts.
Okay. Okay, cool. I just asked because I know I did that with my kiddos in homeschooling, and we did some books, and I think it was Lois Lowry. I was just trying to look that up, but I think she did some great and really give me a perspective and insight into what indigenous people, what they lived, their environment, and reading about the cedar trees. So I really like the fact that you personalized it, and you're probably taking away a lot more than if someone had determined for you how you had to present information. So I'm guessing from you sounded very enthusiastic and they were very individualized. So it sounds like it was a good project.
So I have a question. This method that you all used, UDL, I thought this was a wonderful presentation. You guys did a great job, and I love seeing all the artwork. And I wonder if you feel like this would also be beneficial for other subjects. doing the separate project. Yeah. Is it opening your mind to start thinking about that? That's really cool. Thank you so much.
Could you picture it in a math lesson? Or you could use that approach?
Yeah, my teacher actually had us make some math posters too, and it was really fun about different like ways you can divide.
Cool.
Wonderful. Very cool.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from anyone online? Director Ray or Student Advisor LeBon?
No questions right now, but great presentation.
Thank you very much.
I
for
have to
being-
agree. Oh, sorry.
course.
I'm just gonna have to agree with Director Mike. It was a wonderful presentation, and I'm happy to see the enthusiasm among our students.
Thank you for being brave and
Yes.
being here. Do you have a question?
I do.
Student Advisor Schrader. Sure.
More of a comment, but my first time in this boardroom was as a fifth grader at President's with my principal, Mr. McKellar. And we also had to give a presentation. And it was really fun, but I was extremely nervous and I messed up, I think, every single note card that I had. So I was very impressed that you guys were able to get through it without any snacks or anything like that. So thank you very much.
Well done. Thank you very much for your hard work. And families, you're welcome to stay for the whole meeting if you would like. We've got a lot of fun stuff to talk about, or you can feel free to go home and. We have one more presentation tonight, and that is recognition of our education support professional. And this will be presented by our superintendent, Dr. Sweeting. And I think Erin is here.
Here.
Behind the parent. We'd like to welcome Dr. Sweeting and Eric DeYoung, our Executive Director of Human Resources, and distinguished cabinet members.
Oh, you're starting, right?
I am. Before I get started, I would like to invite Nancy Johnson and Carol and anybody else that's representing from the PSC group, the labor group, because I would like them standing right up here with us. And I know there's others on Zoom, so if you want to stand up at home, you're welcome to do that. Come on up. Brian, you coming up here too? Why don't you guys stand right here, because you're honored guests, right? So this is a night that we officially honor our education support professionals. And it's been interesting because I think some of us did it all last week, and then some of us are doing it this week. So really 2 weeks, but every week. is- That's right, all year long. But we have, simply amazing. We use that term for people that we bring to the board to honor, but all of our educational professionals, support staff are amazing in every way, simply amazing. And they really take the mission of Arlington Public Schools in actionable ways. It's in ways that you see the results every day. They provide a ride to school. They provide a code, they help with putting codes on. They provide food. They keep everything clean. They do so much more. They keep the grounds great. They take care of so that there's heat and all kinds of things, and take care of all corners. They take care of our health needs. And they support us in the classroom. And there's so many more ways that they support us, and they are awesome and worthy of celebration. So thank you to those that are here, but everyone on Zoom, but everyone that's not on Zoom, because they deserve a break too. So we're going to read a proclamation. The proclamation is by the governor of the state of Washington, and it's dated from last week. So see, we're extending this. And so cabinet members are going to come read that, and then following that, Eric will say a few words, and then we have a special video that has been put together, and it has music to it, so you have to take the moment to take it in. and watch it, and then you can watch it again, because it'll be posted onto the board docs. But I wanted to take it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, have another the.
Yeah, I have very few words in my few because Chris did a great job, but I have candy bars. Much more exciting than me talking. So in honor of your being here in person, you get a candy bar. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all you do for our school district, for our students, for our staff and everybody else. So here's the proclamation, the official proclamation. Whereas education support professionals are involved in nearly every aspect of education, maintaining buildings and grounds, preparing and serving meals, keeping school facilities clean and orderly, assisting in the classroom, providing over 60% of all instructional hours to special education, English language learners and opportunity gap students, performing and conducting research activities, providing information technology and media services, administrative support functions, and safe transportation, creating a secure and healthy environment, and many other specialized services. And
whereas more than 62,000 education support professionals work with and help students in Washington's universities, colleges, and public schools are the backbone of our public education system and deserve recognition and thanks for the outstanding work they do for the state and their communities. And
whereas education support professionals are instrumental in fulfilling the state's responsibility to educate all students, and by supporting the learning environment, they serve as crucial partners with teachers, parents, administrators, and school boards.
Now therefore, I, Jay Inslee, Governor of the State of Washington, do hereby proclaim March 5th through the 11th, 2023 as Education Support Professionals Week in Washington, and I encourage all people in our state to join me in this special observance.
Thank you. And I wanted to say that this year we wanted to honor each individual member of the team. And so there were cookies, chocolate chip cookies that were individually named. And we tried really hard to make sure. So we hope, I mean, some of us, I know some of my team ran a few errands today to make sure that we got everybody covered, but it was really intentional that they were individualized and personalized. So thank you again and enjoy the video. So wait, start when they have a seat so they can enjoy it. Thank you. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for being here tonight and thank you for all you do for all of our kids every single day. We appreciate it. Okay, next up on our agenda is our approval of minutes. We've got regular meeting minutes from February 27th and special board meeting minutes from March 6th. Do we have a motion to approve the February 27th?
I make a motion, we approve the February 27th of regular meeting minutes.
Second.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the regular meeting minutes from February 27th. Madam Clerk?
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
I,
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Nat.
Up is our special board meeting minutes from March 6th. We have a motion.
I make a motion, we approve the special board meeting minutes from March 6th.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the special board meeting minutes from March 6th.
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
I,
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Nat.
All right, those meeting minutes are also approved. Thank you. Next up, it would be our public comment portion of our meeting. Do we have anyone signed up to speak tonight?
We do not have anyone signed up at this time.
All right, thank you. Moving on, our next item of business is our consent agenda, which includes our personnel report, our payroll report, warrant, amendments to the fee schedule for the 2023 summer school tuition, overnight trip for the AHS check team to Walla Walla, the approval of securely licensed agreement for student device classroom management, interlocal agreement with the State of Washington Department of Children, Youth and Families, foster care student, and a contract for construction of Camp Prairie Elementary site access improvements. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I make a motion, we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. Madam Clerk?
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
I,
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Nat.
The consent agenda is now adopted. Next up is our new business portion of our meeting. And the first thing on the agenda is our multi-state vaping lawsuit update and a proposed settlement. So Dr. Sweeting.
Good evening again. In July of 2022, actually September of 2022, I brought before the board the opportunity to join a lawsuit against a vaping company that was advertising and marketing in ways that were causing kids to want to take those substances because they were like candy and those kinds of things. So there were about 800 other districts across the nation, about 100 in the state of Washington that joined the lawsuit as well. And so we are at a place now where we can accept a settlement or we can reject the settlement. The attorney that we've been working with just says that it would be a good thing to accept it. The funds are listed in the board on the board plate. There will be minus some attorney's fees in that. But the money that we would have, we would use for prevention, for education, for intervention efforts moving forward. And it's, even though it's one-time money, there is a possibility of an additional payment later, and we would use that money as well for prevention, education, intervention for our students. We have significant increase of vaping across our system since 2018. And I know that we've seen increase across the whole system, even at the lower levels. And the devices, the e-cigarettes and the devices are they come in all kinds of ways. We will on March 20th, Carrie Helgeson, our Director of Equity and Student Wellbeing, she's preparing a presentation to share what we're doing, the efforts, the actions that we're, like right now, there's training that's going on, there's action being taken across the district for education. We've got some vaping detectors in the district as well. it's really grown significantly, our challenges with this. And it does affect, the students' ability to think and takes them away from the learning that they need to be doing. So we felt that this was important. And so the attorney strongly recommends that we accept this settlement. Questions?
So next Monday, when Carrie presents, she will be sharing with us what training the staff, or is it staff training, student training, both?
It's
Okay,
both.
so we're gonna get a glimpse, we're gonna get a
What's
sense.
been happening. There's been things going on, some training. We had Squamish Health District come and train staff. We've had, there's that are doing some training as well. So we have things that are going on.
And what about parental training? Education, I should say.
She can tell you more about that if we're doing some evenings on that, but I agree.
I think that, yeah, that has to be.
What happens also, just the training on the devices come in things like your sweatshirt. They have sweatshirts with devices on them. You can't even tell, they're attached to it. So you wouldn't even suspect that it's a baby tool because it's a sweatshirt. So.
And Dr. Sweeney, do you know, I had this conversation at my house about, vaping and what that would look like. And I wonder, do you know what the current best practices is for what schools are doing with the students that are then being discovered using these devices?
So, of course, we do progressive discipline, but the goal here is to cause them to change behavior,
Right.
to have them be educated. So there is we have some training that goes on, some educational deterrence, but it's progressive. So if it's consistent, and also if people are providing it for another individual, that's at a higher level. So
Okay.
there's consequences for that. There can be, it can lead to suspension,
Okay.
but most importantly, you start with, the
Right.
education piece, and then working with the family.
Right.
So that they can work with the student as well.
And I know you've seen this, I know we all got this email from Melissa Malton.
Right.
And I shared this with Mary a couple weeks back, but I am surprised that vaping, it does sometimes or often contain, is it THC? I was shocked by that. I mean, it seemed a little innocuous when it was tobacco, but that's another story, and I have a serious problem with that.
Yeah.
With middle schoolers. That's it.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, anyone, but for sure that age group. So this was informative. I appreciate him giving us that information.
Absolutely. And I thank Melissa for sending that.
Yeah, I think we need to, we gotta, do something on that. And I know we're not alone. The article I read with WASDA was with Anacortes and what they were up against. And it does feel a bit of an uphill battle, but I think through community education and engagement, I think that, and I do want to find out if there was a consequence to it, because
That's progressive.
Thank you.
We had a chance to see some of the detectors, and I'm wondering,
Yeah,
the settlement also would help get more of those in more schools. 'Cause I think detecting would then help the educators or anyone there, if it's built into your sweatshirt, like you can't deny what's in the air,
Yeah. We're working out, just to be clear on the detectors, there's things that we have to work out with them. They're installed, but we have some things to work out because they detect several things.
Okay.
So not just that, but some other things. We're working out some of that. I won't say kink, but just
The nuances.
Yes.
I'm hoping our student advisors have some thoughts about this subject. How often do you see or smell vaping in high school?
I would say it's pretty bad overall, but compared to last year, I think our security staff is doing a really, really good job just cracking down on it. We have the new bathrooms and the new ceiling at the high school, and it's one person to a room. And so it was kind of a big fear among everybody that that was gonna be the new spot for vaping. But there's really tight security around it is the issue. So yeah, it is an issue, but at the same time, it's not nearly as bad as everybody thought it would be. So I would say it's a big problem, but things are also kind of looking up. Well,
Student advisor LeBon, do you have any experience or would you like to share any thoughts or opinions about this vaping problem?
I'm gonna have to agree with Kyle there, how it is definitely a problem, but it's definitely gone down a lot since last year. And I also just wanted to add on a little thing on my own. The Arlington Youth Council is going to be doing a presentation about vaping to the middle schools and specifically targeted towards 8th graders, just to like not expose them to it, but educate them on the dangers of it and kind of identify the factors as to why it happens and just prepare them for high school, I guess. Not saying that it should be like that, but unfortunately that's just how it is, where they can definitely, like, it's very easily accessible in the high school nowadays, at least, because you definitely see that trade-off or whatever in the middle of the hall during passing period and stuff. So I hope we can accomplish educating the middle schoolers and catching it before it gets to be a problem and they also become part of the problem with the vaping and stuff.
Thank you for sharing. Director Ray, do you have any thoughts about this one?
Yeah, just kind of a quick question on any downside of accepting this award that the attorney presented.
So I did ask that as well, because they were strongly encouraging us to accept it. And they said that if we reject it, we have that option, but it will put it in a long delay. That, and many they just felt that, and there's also a possibility that in that delay that it wouldn't turn out as, you know, to the same amount, it wouldn't be an increased amount, in their opinion.
Excellent, thank you.
Any other questions about this topic? This is an action item. Do we have a motion to approve the acceptance of the Juul settlement?
I can move we accept the settlement.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the Juul settlement. Madam Clerk.
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Nap.
Aye. Thank you. Next up, we have our new high school course, Math in Society, and this will be presented by a teacher, Jen Case. I see you on Zoom. Would you
Hello.
tell us about this course?
Yes, I'm Jennifer Case, the math department head at the high school, and we are super excited to propose a new course as a third-year math option it's called Math in Society. It is a college in the high school course, Math and 107 through EVCC. This would, we currently offer a course called Modeling Our World with Mathematics as a third-year math option, which is it's provided by the state, the curriculum, and while the outline is great for Modeling Our World with Mathematics, the assessments and materials they provide are incomplete and inconsistent. So teachers are having to piece together their assessments, and this Math in Society is, because it's a college level course for college and high school credit, it would come complete with the entire textbook. It includes topics such as discrete mathematics, graph theory, probability and statistics, math in everyday life, as well as consumer math. So it also satisfies a graduation pathway for students who do not meet standard on the math SBAC testing because it's a college and high school course, which our current Modeling Our World with Mathematics does not. Does anyone have any questions?
This is taught by a teacher, correct? This is not an online course.
Correct. Nope. It would just in the classroom. There is an online portion of the textbook that we can utilize. But no, it is an in-person class.
And I'm just gonna remind me again, so EVCC, which means they're like sponsoring it. Do they come in, or we have high school teachers trained in the course that are at AHS?
Yep, exactly. So it is a high school teacher who, like, for example, I am the college and high school teacher for AP's AP Calculus AB. And so my students, because I'm qualified to teach the course at the high school, they receive college credit, even though they're taking the class at the high school. So this would be the same with Math and Society.
And you're looking at offering it maybe this September then?
Yes, we're hoping to, however, the cost of the textbook and the materials is what we're trying to work towards at this point.
Budget being no option, no issue. This is something you'd like to offer next year for the students.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
Good question.
Can you review, I apologize. This is replacing a course, correct? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, the Modeling Our World with Mathematics, while we love the outline of it and its application to real world mathematics, the materials are just incomplete and the teachers are having to piece together. And they still have to pass the SBAC if they take the Modeling Our World with Mathematics, because it does not satisfy a graduation pathway. Whereas this kind of does both with the same third-year math option.
Excellent. And do you think I see as we're scrolling through the lines there, the annual costs are increased or decreased with this course compared to the current course, which obviously doesn't sound like it's that great of a course right now?
The current course right now is free because it is a state provided. There is no cost for the current Modeling Our World with Mathematics. And so this course, we can purchase the textbooks. That would be a one-time cost. The only yearly cost is if we were to use the student online licenses.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I have one more question. If you are not on a college path, would you still be a person that would take that class?
Possibly. I always tell my students, like, don't close doors for yourself. You might not think you're going to college now, but if you can take a 5 college level math class in high school as Math 107, and then later on you decide you want to take some form of college, even at a community college, they would not be required to take the placement test because they already have Math 107 on their transcript. So it really does benefit the student. Now they don't have to take it for college class. They don't have to take it for college course. They can still take the class and meet the graduation pathway requirement. So it is a rigorous third-year math option. We have less rigorous math options for third-year math, but this kind of fills that gap for students that maybe are not ready for Algebra 2. And they could still take Algebra 2 after this course if they wanted to, but it kind of fills a need where our students maybe aren't yet ready for Algebra 2 or don't pass the Math SBAC, and yet can still take a college and high school course.
Sounds cool. Thank you.
Mrs. Case, can I ask a question?
Yes.
What kind of instructional standards does this course cover? What kind of topics?
Yeah. So because it's a third-year math option, it satisfies the pathway for a third-year math option. The units that are in Math and Society, let's see, I have them right here. They offer practical application, college level coverage of practical applications of mathematics methods to the areas of management, social sciences, biology, and other fields. The topics include discrete mathematics, graph theory, probability and statistics in everyday life, and consumer mathematics. It's not for students who are preparing for calculus or sciences. Those students would definitely those students would definitely want to take Algebra 2 and pre-calc, but it definitely gives a good option for students who are not yet Algebra 2 ready, but still satisfy that third-year math option.
Thank you. Do our student advisors have any questions about this course?
I don't have any questions. I think it sounds great. I took algebra 2 and that class did not agree with me. I was able to get through it, but this sounds like a great option, then maybe I would have taken.
I don't have any questions either, but I also agree. I think this is a wonderful option because I'm currently in Algebra 2 taking my math, and I don't mean to call anybody out, but I think this would have been very helpful to them, and I hope it can be helpful and beneficial to future people coming in to Algebra 2.
Thank you.
Are you planning on offering this for 1 period, 2 periods? What's the demand look like?
Right now, it would be 4 sections. We have 120 plus students that are opting for the 3rd year math option that is not Algebra 2.
Like a lot.
Yep.
Man. Any further questions? All right, this is an action item. Do we have a motion to approve the new high school course Math in Society?
I make a
I
motion.
can move. I can move that we approve the new math curriculum.
Yes, I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the new high school course Math in Society.
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Now.
Aye. All right, so with the new course being approved, we're gonna need some new materials. Mrs. Case, would you like to present us with some new instructional materials next?
It's a Pearson published textbook called A Survey of Mathematics with Application. I accidentally left it on my desk at school and was rushing home from golf practice and it didn't get brought to so I could show you. But yeah, it's your typical college level textbook, hardbound, lots of application problems. Again, it also has online version with practice problems for students. Questions for me. I wish I had it in my hand.
Would you expect to use the textbooks then in class, or do you have any computers that the students would be using in the course?
Because all of our students have Chromebooks. Our plan was to basically buy 1 class set of textbooks and where they could use that in class and then the online version at home for their practice. I talked to the teacher in Marysville who teaches this course because I've been running a lot of things by him and he doesn't really use the textbook at all. So my most recent request to the publisher was, okay, what if we didn't buy the textbooks at all and students only had online access? With that. So I like the idea of having a textbook for students if they want, because again, it's kind of that college, here's your textbook, you need to be able to manipulate a textbook and know how to use it. But the online version is definitely appealing when students have their own Chromebook.
Do they use the Chromebook then in the class during that time? Then that's pretty much how they're generally accessing courses.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what we got.
Also seeing here on the online version where ELL students could use language translation programs for the text. Yeah.
You can highlight sometimes too. You can do things you can manipulate it online that you can.
Yeah, exactly.
No carrying heavy textbooks.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
You're in your back.
backpacks get real heavy.
Yeah, sure do.
Okay, any further questions about the instructional materials to accompany this new course? All right, this is another action item. Do we have a motion to approve the Math in Society instructional materials?
I'll make a motion. We approve the Math in Society instructional materials.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the Math in Society instruction materials. Madam Clerk.
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Now.
Aye. All right, those materials are now approved. Thank you for being here with us tonight.
Thank you so much.
Have a great. Next up is our CTE course revision. This is going to be presented by Brian Long. And he is on Zoom also. Yes. Welcome, Brian, our Director of College and Career Readiness.
All right. So this should be pretty quick. Carrie's going to go through a whole lot of paperwork. I'm just going to kind of go over things here, but we've got 2 semester-long courses that we'd like to combine into a 1 year long course. Our Culinary 1 and Baking 1 courses are taught back to back throughout the year, and we want to combine them primarily because students coming into the second semester class, whether that's baking or culinary, will be kind of partnered with about 2/3 of the previous class. When we do this, we lose about 3 weeks of instruction because the new kids have to go through the whole safety and sanitation process all over again and earn their health cards so that they can work with in the culinary industry. So to kind of mitigate that loss of time, we'd like to combine the 2 classes and just call them Culinary and Baking 1, which is exactly how our Culinary and Baking 2 class is already. It's a year-long course, making it very easy for students to also identify that Culinary and Baking 1 and 2 together make up a full CTE sequence, which helps them meet graduation requirements. That's basically all there is with that one. There's a couple more.
I think we're gonna do them all as a group. So go ahead.
Oh, I'm just waiting. Carrie, do you want to switch to a different, and then I'll know which one you're looking at. There we go. We'll do Marketing Essentials next. Marketing Essentials is nothing more than our first course for marketing. We have a Marketing 2 class as well. And just to make things nice and easy for those CTE sequence identification, Marketing 1, Marketing 2, so that kids can identify the 2 real easily. That is literally the only change here. It is deleting a couple letters and putting in a 1. The next one is social media marketing, exactly the same situation here. We're just calling it Marketing 2 social media. So students know that it's implied that you take Marketing 1 before you take social media marketing. And then just to identify, we have 2 different social media or 2 different Marketing 2s, one social media, and the other I think is just retail. So, and our next one is journalism and broadcast. Again, this is just our first year-long journalism class. We just want to call it Journalism 1. And then our next 2 are actually our Journalism 2 classes. So the next one is sports journalism, which we're pretty much taking away the word sports because it turned out that kids who wanted to take journalism don't particularly like the idea of sports. It ended up being more of a digital media and a photography class. So there's still a huge amount of writing. It's still very much journalism, and that's why it's a college and the high school course with journalism 125 through Edmonds Community College, not Everett. Everett doesn't offer this one. So Anne teaches journalism 125, and we're just turning the name again. The content is exactly the same. It's a year-long course. And then our last one is student news media, which is yearbook. We're just going with the words as much as we can that kids would recognize. Going back to digital media and photography, that's actually the name that the kids picked and asked them what they would call it so that they would best understand it. And then she also asked about yearbook, and we just went with yearbook because it's clear and to the point. It also meets that same journalism 125 requirements for college and the high school. So the kids can take either. They can't take both, so they can't like duplicate it, but they can at least take it once in either case. So, and there's really no content change in any of those. The culinary and baking is just allowing for more content to be taught in the same amount of time. And that's it. Questions?
Sounds like very good.
Kyle.
And then-
I have a quick question about the culinary and baking combination. So I know that everybody has already signed up for their next year classes at the high school. So for people who only sign up for either culinary or baking, how will this change their schedule?
So we fully expect that there will be some in and out for a while. We got to let the kind of system catch up to what we do, but we'll limit the amount of students who move in and out of the class. For the most part, we'll probably just honor the semester long course for next year, but try to mitigate as much of the disaster as we can. There's always going to be a kind of transition period when you go from a semester long course to a year long course. So it'll be worked out with the counselors primarily.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good question. Practical application. Any more questions for the CTE course revisions? No. Okay, this is another action item. Do we have a motion to approve the CTE course revisions?
I make a motion, we do the CTE course revisions.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the CTE course revisions. Madam Clerk?
Director Nat, I'm sorry, Director Ray,
Hi. Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Nat.
Aye. Thank you. CTE course revisions are approved. Next up, we'll have our intra-district agreement for cooperative educational services with Washington Network for Innovative Careers.
There is nothing really fancy here. It is our standard old interlocal agreement that we have with all of our skill centers. We're at 3 at this point. We just have some students that want to take up opportunities that are available at the different skill centers. And this one is exactly like that, where they are claiming the 0.6 version of portion of the FTE that is allowed through skill centers. And we can claim up to 1.0 for these students. We don't do that. We only claim about 0.6 and then they claim 0.6 because they usually only are able to participate in our programs about 3 periods a day. So, and then 3 periods are at the skill center, just like all of our Mukilteo kids that go there. This is no different. It's just a standard agreement.
I have a question, Brian. Where is this skill center? I wasn't clear.
It's way down like Renton area. It's way down there. We have one kid who wants to take this up, and we've had an agreement for that with them since the year before I showed up. And it's way down there. I'm amazed that we even have one kid that's willing to drive that distance, but it does offer a program that the others don't offer. And so she takes advantage of it.
So she'll go to Renton first and then drive back up to Arlington High School for the rest of the day?
I think her other classes are online and she does running start. So there's very little actual high school time here.
Okay. And what classes do they have there that we don't have at our other skill centers?
I knew you were going to ask me that and I don't know what it is. I can't remember.
All right. Any more good questions?
That I can answer.
Stuff, Brian. Good stuff, Brian.
Grades, did you say what grades utilize the skill centers?
Only 11th and 12th are allowed.
Okay. All right, this is another action item. Do we have a motion to approve the intra-district agreement for cooperative educational services with Washington Network for Innovative Careers? Nice short little.
I make a motion. I need to say all the words.
I'll
Yep.
second.
Okay.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the intra-district agreement for cooperative educational services with Washington Network for Innovative Careers. Madam Clerk.
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Nat.
Aye. All right, I hope that one student enjoys whatever class that is. Every student, yeah. Okay, next up, we'll have our Universal Design for Learning update, and this will be presented by Carrie Henderson Burke, our Executive Director of Teaching and Learning. Hello.
Thank you so much. Let me get this going. Okay, so it's time for our monthly UDL review. Just a reminder. Oops, let me see if I can. What UDL is. It's an approach to learning. Flexible lesson design is the core idea. The assumption is that the kids are just fine, and it's our responsibility to adapt our instructional system to meet the needs of the kids and not vice versa. So we remove barriers before the kids walk in the door through careful planning. That's sort of the big picture idea. And the word we use with staff is variability, learner variability. Each person learns differently, therefore we plan accordingly. You've seen this before. There are 3 ways to apply universal design for learning. That is removing barriers to engagement, removing barriers to how kids access learning, and removing barriers to how kids show what they know. You saw a terrific example of that from President's Elementary. I have a soft spot for elementary kids, and I just thought they did a great job of talking about why they liked it and why it mattered for them. So you've already seen a great example. because this is such important work, we have a school improvement plan that is universal. It's part of every school improvement plan, where every teacher increases collective efficacy in Tier 1 instruction, that is the general education classroom, by embracing the principles of variability and firm goals with flexible means. This is not new content. We've covered this once a month for the last 7 months, I think. Oops, sorry. So aside from the president's example tonight, we have seen high school PE, where kids, the barrier, the importance of choice before they even walk in the door matters, where they get to choose a specific type of PE course. And then within the course, the way kids show mastery and develop strength is also varied according to their different physical levels. We've seen from Eagle Creek teachers, we saw elementary math, science, and writing, where we saw kids able to access choice in how they practice and master their math facts, in how they practice and develop their writing skills, and in how they culminate a science unit and how they show what they know. And then most recently, we saw middle school science with Megan O'Brien and Angie Kyle, in kids showing in kids accessing different ways to learn, having that menu of options, and then in the menu of options of assessment. So we've really had quite a bit of experience with this. I really want to cover, because this is important, this little document covers a lot of the questions. Oh, sorry. My dog is in here. Can you tell? I'm really sorry. Yeah. We have a dog, we have an old dog, and we have a young puppy, and they don't love each other yet. We're working on it.
So cute.
It's going to be okay. Whew, okay. I think we were talking about UDL before that happened. So the relevant attributes are not new ideas, but they really matter to continuously touch bases with. Learners are not disabled. It's really hard when we've been raised in a system, a teaching system that teaches to the center, to the average. And then if kids don't fit that average, we typically find a program for them instead of addressing their needs in the classroom. Sometimes we look for places outside the classroom. And so it's really important to say learners are not the problem, right? Our curriculum and the way we address needs is where the adjustments come. Everybody has the same goal. It doesn't matter what program you're served in. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what courses you're in. The goal of every course in this district and every learning experience in this district is that you graduate ready for the next steps in your life, regardless of who you are, regardless of anything. That is our responsibility and our privilege as the educators in our district, to make sure that you're ready for what you want to do with yourself after you leave school. We do that by eliminating barriers. We do that by acknowledging that it is a highly and deeply human characteristic to have different learning needs at different moments in time. And we do that with the 3 big ways of thinking about how we change it up so that kids have some choice in the system that they're learning in. What I really want to do is emphasize the irrelevant attributes for our talk tonight. So it is irrelevant that UDL is fun, because it may be. The kids that talked tonight talked about how fun it was and how much they enjoyed their projects, but that is not the end goal. UDL is often fun, but fun is not the point. Learning is the point. So it's really easy to stop at providing choice for kids and say, I've done it. Choice and fun are ways to remove barriers, and that's why UDL is an effective approach to learning. UDL also does not require deep level technology. We try to use technology. We want our kids to graduate comfortable with using technology as a tool and a way to access information and a way to connect with the world, but it's not about technology. That's also not the end goal. But what I really want to highlight tonight is that UDL is not only for special education, which might seem a little bit strange given how much time we've spent on Tier 1 instruction. But the truth is, UDL comes from a move to remove barriers, particularly for students served in special education. So what we want to just talk very briefly about tonight is that it's not only about special education, but students who are served in a special education program are deeply impacted by the methodologies used in Universal Design for Learning. So let's talk about that a little bit. There are 3 directions that we can take Universal Design for Learning. The first is Tier 1 instruction. That's where we've spent most of our time. That is where we access most kids. That's where 90% of the learning in this district happens, right there in standard everyday courses and classrooms that kids take. We access Tier 1 instruction because it's got our biggest impact for kids. That's the first direction. The second direction is called inclusionary practices. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then the third direction is called co-teaching. Technically, co-teaching is an inclusionary practice. It's layered underneath the title of inclusionary practice, but it's a pretty special practice, right? So let's spend some time thinking about UDL and its impact on students served in special education programs, starting with inclusionary practices. Right? So this is a really wordy definition from OSPI. They have a handbook on inclusionary practices, but the easy idea is that every child has strengths and competencies to bring to the general education classroom. True inclusionary practices don't mean students who might be served in a self-contained program sit at the back of the room doing a different activity with the help of a one-on-one paraeducator. That's not inclusionary practices. That's special education, specially designed instruction managed in a general education classroom. That's a very different animal. Inclusionary practices means each child in the classroom is brought in and seen as a member of the class and participates in important learning during regular Tier 1 instruction. That doesn't mean sometimes modifications aren't needed for students who are included in a gen ed class, but the twist is that most of the instruction is accessed through grade level course content. It might be modified from there, but the student participates as a general education student in true inclusionary practices. I've talked a lot. Are there any questions about inclusionary practices?
Carrie, I have a question for you.
Yes.
For the teachers, when you have a special ed student in the room, are the teachers, the gen ed teachers, trained on special ed?
Yeah, we're working on it. Inclusionary practices, we typically think of as students who are served in what would traditionally be self-contained classrooms. So EBD, life skills, ERC, assist. Those are kind of the historically more self-contained programs that we have in our district. So when a student with a significant cognitive impairment participates as any other student, to the extent possible in a gen ed classroom, that's inclusion. Resource room kids are included in the gen ed classroom all the time. So inclusionary practices typically are for what we think of as more self-contained programs. It's a good question, Sherry, thanks.
They get one-on-one. Does the one-on-one come with that student?
Oftentimes, yes, particularly at the beginning of inclusion, but the goal is never, ever to have the student rely on the paraeducator. And that's where the hard work comes in, right? Because so oftentimes kids come in with their own understandings of what it means to have a one-on-one paraeducator. It's our job as teachers in the system to train them sort of off of dependence and into participation.
I have to say, I like the idea, but practically speaking, in my own experience, I would, if I had someone in my room that came from PD, I would definitely need more. I would need a foundation of understanding of what that looks like.
Yes, and I would say inclusionary practices are a process. It's not like kids just show up without any preparation. Oftentimes there are meetings between what we think of as the self-contained teacher and the classroom teacher. There is a gradual immersion, if you will, into the gen ed classroom. It's not fair for some kids. It's not fair to just drop them in with a para and say, go to town. It's certainly not fair to the teacher who wants to do his or her best to ensure that this student's needs are being met and that he or she is indeed learning grade level content. So it's not a sudden process. I would also say it's still a process that we're working on in terms of what kind of specific training the teacher needs. Most of the time, what the teacher really needs is relationship with the student, because that's what generates the deepest understanding of need academic, social, emotional, behavioral.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks for clarifying.
Yeah,
I just,
yeah.
that training component, this part that makes me feel.
Yep, I agree. Our staff would also agree.
Thank you.
I also wanted to talk a little bit today about co-teaching. So CAST is the organization that sort of has codified UDL into some really usable documents and some resources for teachers. So co-teaching, this definition of co-teaching comes from CAST through UDL. So it's very simply pairing two teachers to sort of tag team on the learners in the room. It is most often a method used with a general education teacher and a special education teacher. So you've got a content specialist and you've got a learning methodology specialist working together. They share the responsibilities for planning. They share the responsibilities for teaching. They share the responsibilities for grading and understanding the next steps that student might have. Co-teaching is a move that is happening in our district. It's a specific inclusionary practice that is well underway in schools across our system, that every elementary has a self-contained, what we think of as self-contained program. Every elementary is working very hard to get kids out of the self-contained program into the general ed classroom. The same thing happens at middle school and high school. So in order to facilitate the move from from self-contained classrooms into gen ed classrooms with a great deal of success, where possible, we combine teachers to make sure that it's at its most effective. So remember, co-teaching is a really specific inclusionary practice that we're doing right here in our very own district. So our talk tonight, I'd really like to use as a big fat commercial for the next couple of UDL sessions that you're going to see. We are going to see inclusion. Sarah Durant and Pioneer Elementary house the Elementary Life Skills program. When they come and share their student presentation, that's what it's going to be about, what inclusion looks like at Pioneer. And then after that, we're going to have Nikki Anderson and Kyle Axelson from the high school come and talk to us about what co-teaching looks like at Arlington High School. The co-teaching, particularly at a secondary level, takes a lot of scheduling perseverance, shall we say. And so they're going to come and talk about really what it takes to make to lay the groundwork for effective co-teaching, so that we have a content specialist and a learning specialist tag teaming on some of our kids that need significant support with their learning. So big fat commercial, the next 2 UDL sessions coming soon to a theater near you. Any questions?
Well, my question was about what co-teaching looks like at elementary, middle, and high school level, but I think I'll have to wait for the next episodes. Can't wait.
Next installment.
Any questions from our Zoom attendees, Director Ray or Student Advisor LeBon?
No, as always, a great presentation. Thanks, Carrie, for all of that great information. And you can have the dogs on anytime.
If I showed you their faces, they'd be cute again. But when they get in their little spats, it's not so cute. It's a little adrenaline producing. Sorry.
Right, thank you for that presentation, Carrie. And thank you for all your work to help all of our students every day. Next up, we'll have our first reading of board policies 3230, student privacy and searches, and 3421, child abuse, neglect, and exploitation prevention, policy 4060, distribution of materials. I'd like to welcome Carrie Hudson, our Director of Equity and Student Wellbeing, and you're going to be talking about 3230 and 3421.
Yeah.
And then Gary will come up for 4060. All right.
Hopefully, so I don't know if that's all done. All right, so I'm going to first talk about policy 3230, which is the child abuse and neglect policy. So basically on this one, you can see up here, they've done a name change, just child abuse and neglect. And then they have struck a lot of the information you can see all through that first part, and then it gets down to letter I there. So basically, they've taken out all of that information and moved it to the procedure. And then have just one sentence for child abuse, which is I, one sentence for neglect, which is K, and then one sentence for exploitation, which is J. And then an overall sentence saying physical discipline of a child, including reasonable use of corporal punishment, is not considered abuse when it is reasonable and moderate. So just because we see maybe a spanking here and there, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's child abuse, if it's to correct behavior and it's a parent choice. So it goes into a little bit more about suspected child abuse or neglect, regardless of the person who engages in it. Just a lot of word changes there. They added that child abuse or neglect, not an and there. But pretty much that is all throughout the policy changes. Within the procedure, it outlined more about outlining definitions about what is child abuse, what is neglect, and what is exploitation. So it's a little more specific within the procedure. And Carrie, is this something, I know we've done these first readings with many policies. Is this something over the course of a year or every so many years that we revisit these? Or does OSPI dictate, hey, you ought to relook at this policy?
Yeah, it comes in the WASDA law news. This one was last revised in 2015, which is a little bit surprising that it's that long ago.
Okay.
that we've revised this policy.
Do you know how often policies like this are often? Is it every 5 years, every couple of years?
We do have a cycle, so
Yeah.
yes, we do 2 series of
That's-
that we as a system
Right.
in Arlington review so that they're updated, but then when WASDA sends us, when there's a new law or an adjustment,
Okay.
they send us in policy news that there needs to be a change.
And we get right on it.
Yeah, so there's kind of 2 ways that we approach it.
Okay.
And then Brenda does a great job digging into the policy and
Yeah.
procedures and gives us great. So any other questions on the child abuse and neglect policy? No. Right, so then next is policy 32 or 3230, student privacy and searches. So the title has been changed to searches of students and student privacy, just a little rewording there, which then dictates the order of the information in the policy. So the first one is searches of students and personal property. And then that first paragraph there that has been struck is actually at the end of this policy. So they just did a little reorder there. And then a lot of the detailed information about searches of students has been deleted from the policy and moved straight into the procedure. So it outlines for us in the procedure exactly what does that mean. And using the word of reasonable suspicion and gives us specific questions to ask ourselves to determine whether reasonable suspicion exists. So there's about 4 questions listed in the procedure that we need to do a check before we search a student for that one. And then the student privacy has not changed. So,
And the part where it says encourage rather than essential, it's, where we went back, Brenda did some checking in on this. It's always been encouraged. Somehow we just had it listed as essential. So I just, okay, want you to know on that.
any questions on this policy?
I don't hear any questions.
Good.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
Good evening, directors. Despite what I said earlier, I'm Gary Sable, not Jay Inslee, Director of Communications.
Clarify that.
I'm sorry to make sure that's clear.
And not to confuse us.
That's right. As Dr. Sweeting stated a few moments ago, we're currently reviewing some of the different series here. I'm reviewing the 4000 series. I just finished that. So you might see a few of these 4000 series pop up here and there over the next couple of months. For 4060, the policy, very minor changes. As you can see, was last reviewed in 2014. And so we just want to make sure we're on a cycle, as Dr. Sweeting said. And so this is one of those, the first of these policies. And as you can see, there are very, very few changes, but I'm here to answer any questions if you have any.
And what kind of material are these?
So this is it, so the procedure has where we changed from paper copies to e-flyers. There's a lot more information in the procedure, but the policy is just very general about, you know, what we actually send out.
So a flyer would be giving an example, so things that come from you or,
So the district-wide would come from the public information office, and then the next paragraph down is from the schools. The schools also have flyers or and other information they send out. So this one I wanted to differentiate from the district level and the school level. So that was one of the bigger changes.
Yeah, and this was pretty minor. We debated whether, because there's authority on my part as superintendent to approve it prior to the board if it's minor. But just the concept that we've made this change, just to bring it and being transparent about this.
yeah.
Is, I forget, is Peach Jar like considered the designee or are they the like transportation?
The designee would be the superintendent or the designee, which is me for the district. And then
Okay.
each school has their own designee to send
Okay.
out flyers. Yeah. And PCHARS happens to be the vendor we use. There
Yeah.
are others out there, vendor.
Okay.
PCHARS seems to be the
Vendor,
most.
yeah.
It's a
Thank you.
vendor, not the authority.
Yes.
Okay.
Terms.
Yeah, anyone that wants to send out a flyer has to get approval. You know,
Yeah.
we do get flyers that we are unable to approve.
Right.
For various reasons.
Yeah,
Yes.
have to follow the guidelines. Okay,
Right.
I was just trying to get the labels correct in my head. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, if there are no further questions for any of those first readings, we'll now have our second readings and adoption of board policy 2401, financial education, mastery-based learning and credit. I'd like to welcome back Carrie. Hello.
Thank you. Long time no see. No pets in here, just as an FYI. So this is a brand new policy where students who show mastery of personal finance concepts and skills can earn it separate from seat time. And it's our second read. So not sure if there are any other questions.
If there are no questions, do we have a motion to approve board policy 2401, financial education, mastery-based learning and credit?
I'll make a motion. Policy 2401.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve 2401. Madam Clerk?
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp,
Aye. All right, that one is approved. Next one is 2411, Certificate of Educational Competency. And we'd like to welcome back Carrie. Long time no see.
Thank you. Yes, it's so good to see you again. So again, this is a second read, but it's just an alternate way for students to get a diploma, basically, right? So it is competency proved via testing again, which is common to our system, but this policy in particular lays out the requirements and expectations of who can access the test to earn a certificate of educational competency, and then how it's determined. In particular, what matters to us is the section that's right there, and that is whether or not we are responsible. This section is on how we determine who might participate in this type of program.
Are there any revisions anyone would like to make or questions? Do we have a motion to approve 2411 Certificate of Educational Competency?
I make a motion, we pass 2411 certificate of educational competency.
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded to approve 2411. Madam Clerk?
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
Aye. All right, and Carrie, we'd like to welcome you back for our second reading and adoption of board policy 3117, students in or released from an institution of education facility.
Thank you, Mary. 3117 is a policy that explains how important it is for our district to work with students who are coming out of some kind of facility to ensure that they get credit, the credit they have earned, or access mastery-based kind of credit in order to graduate on time. That includes working with the institution itself. It might include working with former districts. It might include waiving some high school requirements. We have a 24 credit requirement in Washington State. Sometimes kids come to us from other states and other systems. So this policy lays out the importance of our flexibility in both meeting the needs of the student who is being released from the facility and also meeting the educational requirements established by Washington State to graduate. Any questions?
All right, hearing no questions or revisions, do we have a motion to approve 3117?
Make a motion, we approve policy 3117.
I can second that.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve board policy 3117, students in or released from an institutional education facility. Madam Clerk.
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Nett.
Aye. All right, that one is adopted also. Thank you, Carrie Henderson Burke. Go snuggle some puppies. Next up, we'll have our informational items. Start with our superintendent's report, Dr. Seating.
So I wanted to just share, my husband and I, we enjoyed the first performance of the Seven Brothers, the first night. And it was, the students worked hard and they were amazing in every way. And the costumes were great too. And the decorations were great as you walked into the lobby. So it was just a wonderful night. And then I wanted to just say I'm proud of our boys and girls basketball teams that went to state, and they have worked really hard too. And then we're starting spring sports, which there's a long list. There's a long list. When I asked Tom Royce, he listed them out very quickly. And so happy that that's starting. Our budget community forum, we had one last week at Post. We have another one next week on the 28th at Eagle Creek. I am going to announce tomorrow that we are adding another one it's on Zoom only on the 29th. So we're trying to give people an opportunity that maybe could not attend in person, that they could attend one on Zoom. So that'll be the 29th. We'll put it on the district website tomorrow. Thank you, Gary. And then next Monday, we have, for the board study session, we have SIP, sets of school improvement plans updates. So that'll include an update on their goal for universal design for learning. And then that'll be the first hour. Then the second hour will be updates on our district improvement plans, including an expanded time for Carrie Helgeson to talk about the vaping, decreasing student vaping across our district. And finally, this Friday, a few of us are going to be going to a potlatch with the Stillaguamish tribe, and very excited about that and honored to be invited to that.
Thank you. Next up, we'll have our legislative update and discussion. Director Kelly.
So it's kind of, you have your radar tuned into things. And I do thank you so much for allowing me a subscription to Seattle Times. I'm a big fan of the Education Lab, and when my little freebies were running out, I was like, no, I really want to stay tuned. So what I found yesterday, and I texted this to Mary, it's titled "The Next McCleary, Tiny District with Decaying School Buildings Sues Washington State." So this tiny little district, I don't think I can pronounce it, out of, I say Cathlemet, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that, Wahkiakum School District. It's on, I guess, at Columbia. They are only 433 students, and they have not been able to pass a bond for 22 years. So I'm not feeling so bad. We've had them pass before that, but that's a long time. And it's so anyway, it describes why that's relevant. It's interesting though, because it's quotes in 2022, only 21% of the bond issues that went before voters in districts across the state won approval. Bonds require, as we know, the supermajority of 60%, but that's That's amazing. 21% is just really, really low. So this district attempted to get money, but they really rely on some federal dollars and donations, but it is ridiculous to piecemeal it. What's fascinating is this court case is going, this is going before the state Supreme Court this week. So I will stay tuned to TVW and find out more about that. But it basically, they said what McCleary was, what's different about this one, this is more of a David versus Goliath. I mean, this is monumental, what kind of lawsuit? And it's two families, I think, that are suing the state that, you know, they can't pass, they don't have the funds for it. So anyway, it's a very interesting case. I think I will tell you as well that my daughter was greatly impacted by the WASDA conference because she was repeating this information of the unfunded mandates and what it means in special ed and that sort of thing to her siblings. So she's living it, she's feeling it, and that's what you want. You want those elevator speeches to get there in the community with regular people who can share what's going on. So anyway, I will keep my eye on this. I personally feel that the only thing that's going to move the needle is a lawsuit, but lawsuits take a long time. McCleary took a long time, so we'll see. Anyway, that's that was a very interesting court case that's coming up right now, and it's very relevant to what the state legislators are doing. One big thing, the fund facilities, what's going on in session in Olympia. When they do these original bills, they're doing a fair amount of tweaking, which is sad because then the original intent is not accomplished. And that's, yeah. So one thing they're talking about is so this was a public hearing for the House Capital Budget Committee is for funding facilities for small school districts. And what this one is saying, it's phasing in a policy with $60 million for 25-27 budget, then 70-27-29, and then 80 million for the 29-31 year. But it just, again, this is in the future, which yeah, this bill would provide almost triple the amount of funding that they're currently getting. Again, we're looking at removing the cap. This is, like I said, this is going in tandem with this Supreme Court case, the state Supreme Court case. House Education Committee on Tuesday, tomorrow at 4 p.m. they will be hearing the special education. They want to, WASDA definitely wants to remove it entirely, but the way the bill is now, they're looking at changing the cap from 13.5 to 15. WASDA is at again, a place of anything is progress. I'm not as optimistic. I would, I want to really move it, but transportation funding, again, this was scaled back. Brian, this was scaled back. It basically says the bill was scaled back to simply create a special passenger safety net program, allowing the districts to request and receive awards when the district's transportation expenditures exceed the allocations. And then you have to give this information to OSPI, and that would not be taken until June of 2026. Just getting right here thinking about that. Yeah, so they're not going to revisit the issue until 2027. I know Brian's just, yeah, I'm not cool with that. Yeah, no, just to let you know, is Arlington can weigh in on this. You can sign in or testify. I think the deadline, the House Appropriations Committee is March 15th at 4. Graduation pathways expansion, options to offer more. So we're in line with that, which is great. I love to see that these are things that we're considering, and online high school and beyond planning. They're changing it to OSB would require a transition to and adopt a common online platform. Yay. I think the more streamlined we can do that, the better for our kiddos. Anyway, so that's kind of my update for now. And like I said, it's interesting to see what the court case, what that's going to look like. I think that when you continue to hear the buzzword, I don't know that anything's going to happen. I know it won't happen in the near term, but as long as the conversations are happening. And I will say that McKenna, my daughter, went to Clyde's town hall in Vernon. It's just sort of how we voted and why we voted. And they're all having Eslick and Lowe, and who's the other one? Wagner had their town hall in Cedar Woolley this weekend. And Dave Paul, I think, is going to be at the Boys and Girls Club. So I'd like to maybe see him. He's going to be here on Sunday. I didn't get to meet him. at our conference because other things came into play, but just to meet and greet, introduce myself. Anyway, so it's a fast and furious session. Again, the bills get presented and they do a fair amount of changes. And I don't know if the original looks like what they intended, but again, it's part of those conversations and just staying dialed into what we think is important and why, and just building those relationships with legislators. And I think we have the ear of people kind of in our camp. I'm not sure if the gentleman from Oak Harbor is, he gave us a lot that he has a history of teachers, but I didn't get a real warm and fuzzy that he was necessarily in our corner, to be honest. I didn't feel that. So I would rather spend my time with bringing other people who are on the middle and why serving these intentions matter.
Thank you. Thank you for staying informed and letting us know all about all these different topics. There's a lot of work to do. Next up, we'll have our comments from board members. Mariska, are you still with us? Would you like to share an update? Oh, she's here.
Sorry about that.
There you are.
Sure. Sorry, it was a little delayed. I currently have no updates, just trying to make it through this week. It's finals week for Running Start, and I've got my political science class that I'm got a final 4 on Thursday, so I'm just chugging along until we get to next week.
Good work. Keep it up. Student advisor.
I have no update for the night.
Director Knapp, do you have an update for us?
I have some thoughts, I kind of wanted to share tonight after the last community budget forum too, words that have been in my mind, thanks to Mark Rawson, our former board member, which is recovery and adaptation, talking about the budget. And I found an article from the New York Times that was talking about student loss of learning. So this is from January 30th of 2023, this data. They looked globally at schools and there was learning deficits of average of 1/3 of a school year for students who are currently in school, have been in school since COVID. And of course, most of you were in developing countries and low income, but in the US, the elementary or middle schoolers lost 1/2 to 1 year of learning, and most affected in low income areas. And how this affects moving forward is over these students' lifetimes could lose up to $70,000 in income. If we don't act and help them adapt and recover now, they're going to lose income in their future, which affects our society, which they said could be 28 trillion over the century. So those are some pretty impactful numbers, very impactful. So I just feel like it was unfair for the government to support the schools during the time of emergency and not support now during the times of recovery. And what is government here for? Is to support the health and well-being and safety of the people. And that's what we need right now. And the students are kind of some of the most vulnerable. They're relying on us to take care of them and their futures. And so we owe them a future. So I feel like, the more that we can do with reaching out to legislators, Congress people, writing them, this is the priority, is adapting and recovering, because I don't feel like if people want to talk about going back, this is changing. Our society is changing, has changed, and we need to meet the needs of these students. So that's been pretty heavy as we talk about our budget, and we're seeing budget cuts around state and all around us and our neighbors, and just thinking about seeing who are the most impacted and ensuring that we are being responsible with our decisions and not creating a wider gap than already exists. So that's what I've been thinking about.
Those are very deep thoughts and very poignant. Thank you for bringing that up. And I think we all share in that same concern and worry and desire to make every child have the same opportunity to be as successful as they can be. Director Ray, do you have a comment?
No comments at this time. Good meeting, thanks.
Thank you. I'd like to wrap it up by sharing a little bit also. I also enjoyed our school visits that we had to Presidents and Weston. And I also got to go to the musical. They were amazing. I didn't know they knew so many like fantastic jump flip things. That was just incredible to me. And
That's scary.
I was right in the front row. It was a little intense. And they just so much talent and passion and joy. It was just so wonderful to see our arts being so well attended and received and growing. Love to see these kids and their talent. I also went to the budget forum and I got to listen into a lot of conversations, and I am also worried and concerned with the amount of cuts that we're going to have to make and the complications that that's going to create for a lot of our families. But overall, what I saw at the budget forum was an incredibly caring and supportive community coming together in this time of need. And I really hope that our community is as resilient as I think they are. We've gone through some tough times in the past, and I know that if we all work together, we'll be able to help these students learn the best that we can, even with some big budget cuts that we're facing. I'm looking forward to visiting a couple of schools this week, and I am working on a draft letter for SBLC students who wrote the school board these wonderful, it was an assignment to write to the school board in beautiful letters, and they all shared what they love about their school and what they would like to see improve, and they all invited us to come visit them. And so I've worked on a draft, and I was hoping that it will meet their approval and I will get an A from their teacher. So I did really well in 4th grade, I'm sure. So wanted to just share my appreciation for everyone for being here tonight and being so positive and attentive and helpful. And I'm just so grateful for our district and how far we've come. And I also wanted to take a moment and recognize that it was exactly 3 years ago today that our schools had to shut down. It was an incredibly hard time, and look at how far we've come and what we've been able to accomplish together, and just really appreciate everybody and their voices and their actions and all the good work that's been done. If we don't have anything on the agenda, I'd like to share that our next meeting will be next Monday, March 20th. We have a special board meeting study session, and that is at 5 o'clock. And then we have a regular board meeting on Monday, March 27th at 6 p.m. And if I don't hear any objection, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Make a motion to adjourn.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn the meeting. Madam Clerk.
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Nell.
Aye. All right, meeting adjourned. Everybody have a